Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Earthen's Den. And in this episode, I want to talk to you guys pretty briefly here about mental health and what it is that I've noticed about mental health and mental illnesses. Now, I put this in the description, okay? I am no way a clinician. I am not a psychologist. I am not a therapist. I have no license in anything whatsoever. And I want everybody to really hear me in this space and just really try to come from a place of understanding, because I know that this is such a delicate topic. I know that this is something that has been very prevalent in our world today, and it's something that a lot of people are struggling with at a very severe level. So I just want you guys to really hear me out with this. And one of the things I've noticed about mental illness and people who struggle with anxiety, depression, etc., honestly, the reason for all of this is because we do not have connection. I think that a lot of people are just so afraid of being, right? Like they're afraid of being themselves. And so a lot of times when you're dealing with so many people, everybody's in survival mode. So nobody's really showing up as their authentic selves. I believe that a level of vulnerability for most people is uncomfortable. I talked to you guys about this in an episode that I made in regards to friendships. And I have to go back to my library, y'all, because I'm so sorry. I may have like pre-recorded it and didn't release it, but a lot of people think that like being around people in this clique thing, like, you know, having like a clique and having friends and relationships is just all for fun and games. Oh, we look good together, so let's thug it out. You know what I mean? Oh, but nobody really knows like how to actually be there for somebody else. It's almost like we lack connection. It's crazy, you know. And I think this is like the real pandemic. I talked about the pandemic with women, but this is also a pandemic, you know. And so what happens is when you're in a space, you're not feeling so well. You had a bad day, or you may lost a loved one. People looking at you like, oh, maybe you need to go to therapy. No. There's nothing wrong with you. This is life. You got a new opportunity. You know, you're in a new season in your life and you're anxious. You don't have an anxiety disorder. This is life. You know what I mean? And I think the crazy thing about it is because we lack connection, because we lack just our rights as human and their spirits, and just like people who have common sense, you know, in the sense of like our intellectualism and our intuitive gifts and, you know, our connection with God and the Holy Spirit. I really feel like we just don't know how to deal with life's ebbs and flow, you know. So we're so quick to go to a doctor because, of course, you know, we think something's wrong with us, not realizing that, hey, I'm just in a bad season right now. I'm messed up. I lost my mom. I lost my dad. I lost my, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in a space where it's like I just dealt with some things, you know what I mean? And so the thing is, so many people are so quick to write you off and be like, oh, you need to get over it. Oh, you need to deal with this. Forget them people. Don't deal with them people. You know, the problem with today in relationships, like straight up, is that so many people just have no clue what it really takes to be a friend, what it really takes to be in a relationship. A lot of people do not have the depth to really like bear what it is that you're going through. And I'm never saying hand your burdens, your emotional burdens over to other people. But so many people see memes and they're like, oh, I can't deal with your emotional baggage today, or whatever TF that means. You know what I mean? That's BS. Like, I'm just at a space in my life where I just realized if people can't show up for you in those seasons and really be there for you while you're going through some things, they're not the people for you. And you got to be careful with this, because there's been times where I found myself being vulnerable with people and opening up because I knew I needed a friend. I felt like I could trust this person. I wanted to develop something real with this person, but they couldn't handle it. You know what I mean? They couldn't handle it. They don't know what it was like to be vulnerable. They couldn't, you know, because they're not even looking at their own pain. They're not even dealing with their own stuff that happened to them. And so what happens is you have people who grow up and they just kind of put all that in the back burner. They're not dealing with that. They're not healing. They're not doing the work on them. They're not reading the books. They're not listening to you know what I mean? They're not doing that. They're not doing none of that. And so when you come out and you real about your stuff, like, hey, this is where I'm at, it's like, oh, man, whoa. You know what I mean? Because they don't want to face that within themselves. But don't set yourself up to be in spaces where you're vulnerable with people who don't deserve to see that level of you. You know what I mean? When it comes to your vulnerability, I remember I was listening to Brené Brown. I really like her. Like, she's really dope. She's super fierce. But she said, you know, this is how you know people are not worthy of your vulnerability. Is when you go to tell a person something and you tell them something deep about you and they just like, oh, man, dang, that's crazy. You know what I mean? And how often do we receive that from people? If you are somebody who's honest with yourself and you're in a certain season, one of the things I knew about myself was that it would pass. And I knew that I wanted to be the best version of myself. I knew that I wanted to heal. I knew that, God had me along the way. But I knew that it was just a season, and I was really happy to be confronting a lot of the things that I had never dealt with, right? I'm in my I'm 23. I'm very, very young. So the thing about life, and for me, it was so much I just did not know. Talk about childhood trauma and just trauma in general. When you're in your 20s, just period. I'm not even going to say early 20s or, because it really doesn't matter. Just in your 20s, period, you're so young. You know what I mean? That first 18 was like you were sheltered, you know what I mean, in some instance or another, right? Whether with the state, whatever. You know what I mean? When I say with the state, I'm talking about like institutionalized learning. Like there was regulation, And so what that did was, that really put you in a space where it was like, okay, I don't really know how to think for myself now that I'm out here. I got to make real world decisions. I have to move a certain type of way. I have to do a certain type of thing. You know what I mean? And so when you're in that space, you don't have the experience. You don't have the adequate amount of knowledge. And if you do have the knowledge, you don't know how to apply it. Right? You don't really know what applies to what. You're afraid to make mistakes. We're all going through it together as a collective. And the reason why I say it doesn't really matter, because I feel that I've met people who are in their 40s. I know people who are in their 30s who still have no clue. You know what I mean? And so I don't really think that age necessarily makes a difference in regards to our level of consciousness. And I wish that we would kind of stop doing that, because it's younger generations who are ahead of the curve, right? Who have definitely actualized a good 70% of themselves. And they're very, very young. You know what I mean? And there's some indicators that I believe that you can kind of recognize of a person who has actualized certain parts of themselves. Now, granted, it doesn't necessarily mean everything, but, you can kind of tell, And so when it comes to mental health, I think that in today's society, we are just so quick to prescribe a medication. I work in a pharmacy. I've worked in a pharmacy prior to this pharmacy that I'm working in now. I told you guys I've had over 28 jobs. And what I recognize when it comes to this is that it's a pharmaceutical company, right? There's monetary aspect to be gained. There are, incentives for prescribing this medication. But in the end, I'm not saying that there's not some people who need to be medicated, because I think that there are some illnesses that need to be treated, right? There are some illnesses that need to be treated. But, in the end, this is something that we are literally normalizing, being on the medications, not recognizing that, hey, this is just a kid who's going through life. It's normal to feel what you're feeling. Okay. And the reason why I think that we have such a pandemic in regards to mental illness is because we don't allow each other to feel. I've had people in my life where I said, hey, I'm not feeling like my best self today. I got some things going on. I got some stuff coming up that I'm dealing with. Can you sit in this space with me? Now, granted, I didn't say like that in a literal sense, but I'm like, hey, I got some things going on. These people are going to tell me, you got this, and this. There's no reason for you to feel unhappy. There's no reason for you to feel what you're feeling. And this is what we do to people time and time again. We don't know how to be a friend. We don't know how to sit in the space and listen to people. I believe that our lack of humility, our lack of humanity for one another just allows us to just kind of coast by. So no, we're not going to check on those friends who we know just lost a loved one. You know what I mean? We're not going to be in those spaces because we don't want to hear about it. We don't want to face that. We don't think that it could be us. We think that that's just a happenstance. It's just their life, right? Oh, God doesn't give us anything that we can't handle. You know what I mean? And so then we kind of sit in the space and it's like, oh, well, it ain't going to be me. You know what I mean? And that's the lack of humanity right there in a sense. That's the lack of humility, And so I just think overall when it comes to the root of it, it's because we're not allowed to feel what we're feeling. Why can't I sit in this space, not stay in this space? Hear me clearly. I never said stay stuck in your pain. Don't stay stuck in your pain. I'm learning you got to move forward, and that's fine. But just understand that, if you're dealing with some things, hey, that's fine. It's life. You're not sick. Everybody has anxiety to one level or another. The world is ruled by fear. There's a lot of fear in the world. A lot of people are afraid to do certain things. A lot of people are people are scared. Right? People are scared. And if you're listening to this, you've had your times where you've acted out of fear and you knew that, hey, that's not really what I really want to do, but I'm kind of scared. You know what I mean? And so the thing is, you just got to recognize that it's life. It's life. There's no prescription to life. There's no antidote to, relieve what you're feeling in life. With life comes pain and joy, right? There are seasons of suffering, right? Does it last forever? I like to believe not. Truthfully, I believe that God talks about us having everlasting joy. I don't think that that's, when we die. I think that there comes a point in life where he will heal you. And there will be a point in your life where you are sustained and you are grounded and you are rooted. And when these thoughts come and these feelings come, he will give you the wisdom, the knowledge, and the treatment within meditation, whatever it is it may be, to move through that. I believe that this will pass. And so I just want everybody to know, if you're dealing with mental health and mental illness, at the end of the day, all of that is because you're not expressing yourself. I never said go out and kill anybody. I never said go out and commit hate crimes. I never said go out and, do things that are just unjust. You know what I mean? I never said that. But what I am saying is maybe try to find an outlet for yourself. If it's boxing, if it's journaling, if it's yoga, if it's working out, if it's going for a run, if it's therapy, figure out what that is. But you need to express yourself. Express yourself. And let me tell you something. If you're with people who cannot accept the real you, they can't accept the truth, they cannot accept you expressing yourself and how you feel, they cannot be accountable for their actions. Hey, I'm letting you know right now, I'm in this space. And then, you tell them that, and then they go on and they do something weeks later, months later, whatever the case may be. And you're like, yo, you're penetrating the things that I'm telling you I'm dealing with. Straight up, let that person go. I think that sometimes we can just be too liberal. I know for myself, being raised by, a pretty good family, sometimes I could be too liberal with the giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. And I talked about this in previous episodes. It's really true, you guys. Not everybody has your best interest at heart, and it's not to go out and be in fear, and it's not to live your life in fear, but you got to just really sit in a space with you. Like, one of the things, I'm going to close with this because I feel like this is a conversation that I can literally go on and on and on for a very long time. But one of the things I really want to share with everybody is that it is so important that you have seasons where you are alone. And I know people talk about it and it's like, you shouldn't be alone, blah, blah, blah. Man said, Bible says man shouldn't be alone. There are seasons where you need to be alone, right? Like, come on, Ecclesiastes 3:3. I talk about it in my book, Seasons. Like, there are seasons where you need to be alone. You need to be with you. Like, it need to just be you and you. Because the thing is, when you're not self-actualized, and we talk about self-actualized, I'm talking about manifesting your potential, manifesting your dream car, manifesting your dream life, right? Oh my God, you're so vulnerable. You're not just vulnerable because you may be in a state emotionally or mentally or circumstantially, or situationally, right? You're vulnerable because you don't know who you are. You're vulnerable. Right. And so what happens is you meet people along the way and you try to find yourself through these people, and they will never be able to bring you that sense of fulfillment. They're people. That's all that's it. You know what I mean? And so the thing about it is, when you are bad in your, when you're alone in these seasons, you can recognize what is for you, what is not for you. And understand this too. Understand when to apply selflessness and when to apply selfishness. OK. When it comes to you being selfless, know that in your heart, like, I know for me, in my heart, I'm a generous person. I've always been that way. I've always been raised, I was raised that way. My mother's very generous. That's just me. I'm a very kind person. Like, I know my heart. I know myself well enough to know that, right? You know what I mean? But there are seasons where it comes in your life where you need to be selfish. You need to say, hey, this ain't flying for me. This is what I need to do for me. And don't go back and forth on it. I talked to you guys about this in the last episode. Understand that your emotions are your emotions are going to allow you to go back and forth. But your intuition is a very calm, still knowing. I believe when it comes to something that's true to you, you're going to have a different level of confidence after that decision. You're going to have a different level of peace after that decision. But when it's emotional based, you're back and forth, right? So understand that. And I'm telling you right now, get clear on who you are. Man, get clear on who you are. I think that life is just, man, the more I learned about it, I see the beauty in it. I see the beauty in it. I like to believe I was born an optimist, even though I don't really know. But, I really like to remain optimistic in life. And I really like to be the kind of person to always be light. And I always like to radiate that. You know what I mean? But there are people in life. There are forces in life. There are things that just happen in life that are not equivalent to that. Okay? And you just got to be aware. You know what I mean? You got to be aware, and you got to be strong enough within yourself to know that, So don't be naive to that. I think that would be my main thing. Like, don't be naive to that, and understand that sometimes you can get with people who can actually create these mental illnesses within you. Life is materialistic, right? Life is physical. Life is tangible. It's external. It's what we can see, the things we can feel, touch, but it's spiritual. And there's so much that we can't see, so much that we can't necessarily feel with our senses, but we feel it internally. And so just be mindful of that. And I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but I just really hope you guys hear me. And I'm going to leave you guys with your thoughts.